Title by Dimatorzok E. Friends. This is the EZSO channel.
And today we have an unusual video. Today it will be hosted by me, Yevgeny Trofimov and Kirill Konkov. We are co-founders of this enterprise. And today Kirill, as our chief designer, will tell you about the principles of long-term operation of the equipment that we produce. Kirill, please tell us, for example, let's start with our multipress equipment. What do our potential customers need to know before buying this equipment? And what are the principles to make it serve them for a long time? I don't know what they can do, what they can't do. And in general, what can break, what can fail here, I don't know.
Nuance.
Initially, the equipment is very reliable. We have put a good safety margin in all its units and assemblies. We use quality components, that is, in terms of hydraulics and electrics. I understand that we completely make hydraulics for our spectators ourselves. Many enterprises, for example, order prefabricated hydraulics from some enterprises. We do it all ourselves, so we can answer for it. As for hydraulics, we buy Italian components. We assemble oil stations ourselves. We design these oil stations ourselves, test them with maximum pressures, load them before shipment. Every machine is definitely tested in this respect. Yes, we make the hydraulic cylinder ourselves. In other words, we buy quality chronoconical stack pipes and completely sharpen everything ourselves, manufacture it ourselves, test everything ourselves again.
The electric, the controller, the CNC control are the same.
We have now switched to our domestic brand oven. We use it, it shows itself very well. Very reliable. Plus it is easier for us to program, upgrade, so to speak. When choosing this controller, we immediately considered the possibility of modernizing it for the future. That is, we can then add some accessories, invent new modes of operation, we can update it remotely if the customer needs it, and so on. In this respect, we have tried our best here. What is needed to make it work for a long time? According to the manual, according to the regulations, oil change in the hydraulic power plant, it is in the manual. Well, the most important thing is the working area. Here we have, roughly speaking, this slider, which is just a tool here. There are screws. These two screws from the bottom are like pills from the nose. You can see even traces of them remain. So we calibrated with these screws, so that it was parallel to the table and move, but at the same time they rub, so they need to be periodically lubricated. I've got some guys here who lubricate them, so they have to be lubricated during the working hours, so they won't do anything to them, so they will just wear out if you don't lubricate them. After a while you have to replace them. It's quite easy to change, but nevertheless it's time and so on this. This is what concerns the moving part, and in general in the rest it's necessary to make sure not to overload it. That is, of course, we set the pressure limit, which it can work, but if it is constantly pressed to the maximum, it will probably start to break down. It may break down, the tool may break down, of course. Yes, it's all a tool, it's a consumable, but you have to use it wisely. But the most important thing is that any equipment that we produce, it is as if it is being tested at our enterprise. Not just tested, but we basically work on it on a daily basis. That is, we fulfill orders. You can see here, and I think that this is the most important indicator of the fact that if we would find out, we are most interested in having this equipment work, because it works for our profit. Accordingly, we are confident in it, and accordingly, if you follow the regulations, instructions, the equipment will serve for a long time. Now I propose to go to the machines of the GP series, also to inspect them and get recommendations from Kirill Evgenyevich. So friends, we have now come to the bending section. Here are our JPEG series machines, on which we produce snack segments. And right here are the machines that are standing here. They have been working with us for many years. Some of the machines have been working for 6 years. Some of them have been renewed. And now Andrei Levich will tell us about the rules of operation in order to ensure long service of these machines. Here, if we compare it with the Multipress, it is the same oil station, the same hydraulic components, the same controller. Basically, in terms of design, just in terms of quality. Roughly speaking, the Multipress is an extension of our GP. That is, we practiced here. We practiced on the Multipress. Well, roughly speaking, it is the same hydrolytic press and the principles of operation are similar, only the construction is different. Well, for example, there are slides under the cover here. It is obligatory after the purchase of the machine to lubricate these slides within the first month. Special technological holes from the slider is adjusted to the desired position there by pre-lubrication. They are lubricated. That is, we here at the factory necessarily check it all lubricate, but in the process of the first. Well, 0 ETO. Well, a few days of the first few days, yes, this grease, it separates. It needs to be renewed a little. It needs to be added to make them run for a long time, these guides. We have never had anything happen to them during the whole period of work. With these guides in general, well, if I understand correctly, we put it in, lubricated it after a month of operation, and never touched it again. No, it's a regular thing, periodically. Routine. We put grease in it from time to time, well, still, it lasts a long time. The most important thing is to follow the regulations. Here. It's also about the matrix itself, the fuancins themselves. In the same way, if we press hard, overload the machine, our tools will wear out. Accordingly, the parting will become unusable. It will have to be replaced. But the most important thing is not to overdo it. After all, it is a constructive feature of this machine, this feather. You can't make it any other way, that is, somehow enlarge it, strengthen it. It can only be like this. It is necessary in order that, well, I will explain that the coil during bending goes beyond.
It turns out beyond the rotator, beyond the edge of this fetter.
Yes, if you make it big, all the coils 100% will rest in it. It will not be very convenient to work. I mean, I understand correctly, in principle, you could strengthen it even more, but then the functionality would be reduced at all. Yes, the functionality would be very much reduced, i.e. you can do almost nothing on it. That is why this very basic top, it is the weakest one we have. Here you just need not to overdo it so that it does not bend over time and spoil it in any way. It can be, I think we have. But that's why we put a limit on the thickness, on the grade of steel. Yes, that's why we have a machine. If we have a 20-ton machine, it can be 12 millimeters, yes, and no more. So it will bend more than that, but the forces are greater, yes, but it turns out that the metal will then play, deviations will occur. All this will add up to the further production of the geometry. That's right. And just like that, we have a sensor here. We need to make sure that nothing gets in there, so as not to lift the sensor. Again, the sensors themselves are very reliable. They have never failed once during the whole period of work. As soon as we found one manufacturer, we work with them all the time. Never had any problems. Well, cleanliness. This is where the scale accumulates every shift. With a brush. Yes, it is necessary to clean this place, because if it all gets clogged, you can run so that then the half-tooth will jam. Nothing should be left here, in this area. We used to have Siemens controllers. I already told you about it. Due to the fact that there are a lot of cycles on the machine, they did not work and often failed. Now we have such a problem gone. They have very unreliable micro relays inside, which with constant switching they would eventually fail. That is, we had to change them, we had to reflash them. That is, we left free outputs on the controllers, to which people could cross there themselves. We had this problem at one time. We changed, that is, we switched first to a Chinese Vicon, which worked more or less normally. Then we switched to OVIN. It is more friendly in programming, so we are now all in it. Now we have a controller that can memorize the whole life, so we don't need a separate laptop with software at all. Everything is directly engaged here. Yes, completely. All the calculation of the work through the controller. Plus it can save, that is, it memorizes the turns that we made. That is, they can then be called up to see what tooling stood where. We just brought out, roughly speaking, instructions for customization. That is, it saves some historical data so that the operator does not have to remember later. Yes, A new person came, understood, read it. Yes, we have made it very friendly in this respect. Yes.
Friends, let's go to the welding rotator.
Okay, friends, well, our last equipment today is the welding rotator. Also, Kirill Eugene is now telling us recommendations for reliable operation. Well, here, by and large, there are complexities. Here is the gearbox, as we can see. Yes, it has oil that needs to be changed periodically. It is also written in the regulations. It is a regulation of operation of the gearbox with electric motor. They're with electric control. You don't have to do anything special here. The main thing is to make sure that it's all more or less clean. Here, the most important point is our faceplate. It is isolated from this rotator structure. So here we have the output, the mass. Well, if you guys really just screwed it in here, well, we've got it. Well, this is our prototype, our very first prototype. It's a little different with Irina, yes. And there's a contact group. Now we'll go here, let's say. Here you can see, for example, here you can see the brushes here. We have a copper ring pressed in here. You can only use it in this way, i.e. the welding mass clings here. If we get oil on the rotator itself, welders like to snag something. We took care of it, we insulated it, but nevertheless, if you give some big current, you can break through it. Accordingly, the bearings, the gearbox will die literally in half an hour.
You can't work like that.
That is why, according to the regulations, we have, I think, 250 amperes. You have to check the manual. I think it was tested at 250 amperes. We have 300 amperes. We had a welder welding for half an hour at 300 amperes without stopping. Just burned out the arc. It didn't even get hot. So we set the instructions at 250 amps. We always put the rated values to be dangerous. We test it with much higher amperages. This is the most important point exactly in the rotator. That is, roughly speaking, oil change. Don't hook the structures, hook it here. Well, yes, in essence. Basically, there is nothing complicated in the operation of this equipment. The rotator, we have this big dummy here, runs on 220.
Yes. By the way.
That is, in any socket, in any carrier. You don't need to pull 380 to it. I understand that it's not a problem for the Enterprise, but sometimes it's much nicer like this. Yes. Here we also have an inclined gearbox. Well, you can't do anything with it. Well, don't.
Oh, I'll show you something else.
Here we have a gear train, and it also needs to be lubricated periodically. You know, just to keep it running longer. Violated a little bit of welder's aesthetics here. Well, okay, he'll come back and do it all over again. Alright guys, that's it, that's the clip. I think we have answered most of your questions. So subscribe to the channel, order our equipment at the link in the description. And see you in the next episodes. Bye.